Hello everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed here, and we've returned back to the letter. The next 2 days rushing by a blur. Rush, rush by in a blur. All together leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piling up in new unexpected acquaintances or friends. Despite how you look at it really, either way I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 in the morning to reach a deadline set by an over-eager art director. Don't get me wrong, Julius is good, has a vision, and knows what he wants, but damn he can be too enthusiastic sometimes. Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway. There's nothing new in it, of course. After years of working as a freelance, it's simply something I've grown used to. Getting to know people, build a client base, do good work and cash in some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footing on the field, but it's the kind of thing that pays off in the long run as long as you keep at it. Given enough time, you might end up with big names on your client list. Names like the Wrights in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible not to hear about them when a local news channel or paper has something to say on their name. A party here, an acquisition here, there. Sometimes it's a new business venture, other times it's the everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high profile couple, and between them and the fuss that comes in, it leaves me no time to ponder over whatever happened to Isabel or why Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair. They do seem like the good folk though, despite the whole fame thing. Sure, there was a rumour running around years ago about him being involved in some business scandal, but just like everyday gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing came of it, and eventually it simply died down. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Miss Wright would pick him if he didn't have any good points at all. Miss Wright, Hannah herself, though, she ain't particularly bad the way the press makes her out to be. A bit too forward for a married woman, maybe, but not as bad as what's on the tabloids. Not that I ever read those. Ashton would give me flack for just staring at one. Rubbish, he called them once. I think he's just annoyed because they often put the local police in a bad light. Although with a life as public as Wright's, no wonder it's a woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabel too, if they aren't living worlds apart. Probably. The beep quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. In one practice motion, I carefully place a wet print I'm holding on a dry rack and amble over my makeshift dark room to get the last photos from the water bath. Inside the converted broom closet, the film processor lets out another soft clack before going on its standby mode. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with the lack of light. It's the last one tonight for the set Miss Wright requested. I don't usually make this a habit, giving away stuff, that is. It's bad for the business, no matter how intentional, I don't know how to, I don't know how to read that word, intentional or genuine you are. This is extra marathon. She was nice enough to ask, after all, and was a good companion up until the awkward turn our little chit-chat has taken. Even if she didn't ask, I would have probably given her a few prints just for the hell out of it. Miss Wright ain't such a bad subject in the matter to begin with. Maybe it's just me, but for someone who has everything at the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a lovely husband, and a plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in her tone of voice, how she moves, and most certainly in her smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour of the world to never see. Sometimes for people like her, small things like these helps. A little reminder that the world can be kind too. Water drips from a paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it onto another tray holding a decent amount of photo fell. A few seconds until the solution is all it needs before it's ready for drying. No good rushing this last one, even my body's already screaming for some decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving towards it with familiarity. While I fished for a squeaky, a monster with massive tools on a drawer with the other. The bulb flickers twice before it glows settles and casts a soft light in this tiny space. When I glance back down, squeaky in hand, ready to finish the process and finally call it a night, what on earth? Her head is gone. Distorted. Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. The area completely smudged over, leaving no trace of the same sweet smile of a good woman carried in all the previous prints. Damn, that was too careless. A common mistake to make, of course. If one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark, like I apparently did. It has happened before, loads of times actually, but I still can't help but feel a small pain of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. I reached for the switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch. It could pass off of one of those supernatural photos they show on TV though. A memory clicks, one cursory thought in the sea of many, and a short yet distant second from the day before. A glimpse is all I got, but it's enough to burn the image in my mind. There was a shadow. That. A woman. In her 20s or early 30s maybe. But with how far her flesh alone has come, it's not possible to tell at first glance. The skin itself has already taken a sickly pale colour, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. Bony hands grip Miss Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with vibrant... Anyway, we can... Okay, I was thinking if we could move the camera, that's all, with a vibrant shade of scarlet, sorry. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes. Zachery? Not for me, but for Miss Wright. Zach, is something the matter? Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I just remember something, that's all. Let's get back to the photos. Can you just move a bit more to the left? Some of Hannah's shots from the photo shoot the day before came out distorted after Zachery developed them. He would have almost dismissed it as human error if he hadn't remembered a chilling memory from yesterday's shoot. Yeah. The memory alone is enough to make me reach. Yeah. I brushed it off then, a trick of the eye, I told myself, or a product of the heat. The weather has been unexpectedly warm recently, so I shouldn't be too surprised for such things to happen. And well, blaming this on the usual fatigue and overworked brain, weather, or an amateur error on my part is far more convenient. It makes a whole lot of sense than what the small voice inside my head whispers. The same tiny voice that only makes itself known when something's afoul. The same one that lent a curious ear to Isabel's worries about the mansion. And with each second I spend staring at this photo, the murmurs in my head only grow louder against my ears. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Show the photo to Hannah, show the photo to Ash. Well, in this playthrough, I'm only going to select the top options only, whether I think it's a good idea or not, because I believe that the better route would be to show it to Ash rather than show it to Hannah herself. But let's go with this. Let's ruin our relationship with Hannah even more. It's already down though anyways. So yeah, I don't have an explanation for what I saw yesterday. Yet. But when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs at the back of your neck or leave you wanting to flee or hide, finding a more solid proof in a person's smudged off face or on a photo is the least of my concerns. Ashton will undoubtedly give me flack for saying that, or even considering Isabel's words and those silly tales about the place. The guy's a skeptic through and through. It'll take more than my account for him to even give this a single thought. However, more than his opinion is Miss Wright I'm concerned about. Surely she must have felt something if those shows on TV are to be believed. A touch of coldness in her neck, or maybe the feeling of being washed. That's what often happens, ain't it? Outside, the sun has yet to rise, so I've got a few hours before dawn. Good enough to mull over how I'll go about warning her. Plenty of space to check if I'll get the same result if I redo the process again. Where are we? We are here. We're gonna. Oh yeah, this one tells Ash, and this literally skips a good part of the story. I got a busier end than this one. But telling Ash, we would have gone here, and by the time we get later into the chronological timeline, then we would have more on Ash's behalf. But I do actually would believe that telling Ash rather than telling Anna would have been actually a good option to do. Good enough time to mull over, there's plenty of space, redo the process again. The film processor hums back to life at my touch, the light switch gives out a soft click, and darkness embraces the small closet again. Somehow, those urban legends don't sound so silly now. In hindsight, this is a dumb idea. That is to say, rushing to a client I barely know's home first thing in the morning with news of a ghost lady potentially haunting their newly bought property. And there's a bunch of bizarre looking pictures of Miss Hannah I've brought as proof too. So yeah, dumbest idea in the history of my dumb ideas, all things considered. Travelling to the outskirts of the silent village at the crack of dawn with only my bike as company, equally so. Personally, I don't think any of them would take whatever I'm going to say. No matter how nice or accommodating they are, Ashton himself would tell me the same thing. Odds are he'll laugh at it in my face for good measure, if he doesn't freak out at me at first for not listening to his warnings. Still, that's the whole separate can of worms I can open at a different time. Seeing as I'm already standing at the right front porch waiting for someone to answer the door, more than anything, Miss Wright needs to know there's possibly nothing safe in this place. Warnings from friends be damned. If only someone would answer the door sooner. Come on. I try to ignore the looming presence where large orient doors give off as I press the doorbell for the fourth time. Its shrill ring merely echoes, carried off by another warm passing of breeze. The first time I came to this place, I found myself basking in the silence it offers, and now the atmosphere is just heavy, packed with trepidation and tension. Isabel's right, it does radiate a creepy kind of vibe. And with the image from the day before constantly flashing in my mind, the unease becomes harder to ignore as each second drifts by. Not wanting to spend more time here than necessary, around the bell again. Another long second ticks by without anyone answering the door. If this fails, I can always go to Ash. Not really the most sensible course of action either, but waiting here isn't doing me any good. For all I know, the Wrights could be out of town. As luck would have it, just about as I'm to turn my heel, a large thump raises from the other side. It's followed by heavy footfalls and a string of very colourful expletives as about one's parsonage. Didn't we have that bloody annoying doorbell replaced yesterday? That Irish gintess cost me a fortune and she can't even fix this nuisance. And where the hell is Jonas? If another po-faced prat is pressing that blighted bell, I swear I'll cut their... The door swings open and a very irate Mr. Wright greets me. His partly rumpled appearance a clearly testament to how early the hour is. And who you might be, I don't recall answering the movers to show up this early. I was prepared to face Mr. Wright, their butler more so. But Mr. Wright, I don't quite know what to make of him yet. He surely knows how to make an impression, I'll give him that. About a rude one. Only caught sight of him yesterday as he's directing the movers. Although from how exasperated he sounded then, it seems like more yelling was done than actually giving of directions. Needless to say, I like to believe those instincts aren't all there is to the guy Mrs. Wright at the end of the day did marry him. Standing before him like now, though, is a different story altogether. Despite the difference in our respective heights, he manages to make it appear like he is one looking down on me, not the other way round. An apology instinctively forms in my mouth before anything else when he arches an eyebrow at my lack of response. Well, that's not exactly why I'm here. Mr. Wright, yeah. Right, of course, one and only. What can I do for you on this fine morning? Have I seen you somewhere before? Bloody. You peasants all look the same to me. Yeah, I'm actually... It doesn't matter, I don't care. I've got some place important to be at today. Just spit it out what you want or be gone. I haven't got all day. His eyes are sharp and expectant in spite of his indifferent tone. The very impression of someone whose sharp wits have served him well throughout life, the kind that you have to carefully choose your words around. disconcerting how a simple conversation can easily seem like a ruthless form of social maneuvering. I can see why Mrs. Wright would want to stay clear of it, if only for a short while. There we go. Sorry, sir. I was just... You see, I'm a friend of Hannah and... A friend of Hannah? Yes, sir. Hold on. Let's see what this has done. Oh, this has brought the friendship back up, actually. Yes, sir. His eyebrows shoot into his hairline at my answer. Although it swiftly disappears under his dismissive gesture and a chuckle at his heels. A small frown spreads across my face before I can stop myself. Well, I said there's nothing remotely funny in it. Yet here he is, hugging an arm closer to himself in a weak attempt to keep his shoulders from shaking. Did I mispronounce something, or... No, not at all, you didn't. My wife, has never mentioned a friend like you, that's all. I suppose it's a good thing she's venturing out of the usual. Vultures and savages, all of them hiding under sheep's clothing. I don't really get it, sir, but it's not really surprising she wouldn't talk about me. We just met yesterday during the shoot. As soon as the statement is out, the amacus air melts away almost palpably. His eyebrows crease into a frown and his posture stiffens. With how fast the atmosphere around us changes in merely the span of a few spoken words, I'm not quite sure what I can and can't say anymore. Like handling a tickling time bomb. Is this why Ashton wants to stay away from them? If so, a part of me regrets not listening to him now. Shoot, who are you again? Zachery Steele, sir. I was here yesterday for a magazine feature about your home. Ah, that's Zachery, the photographer. I remember now. Just when you think she'd be careful meddling around media types these days, she makes friends with one. It was just really small chit-chat, sir, the usual, to keep things entertaining. The shoot did take the whole afternoon to finish. Oh, I'm sure she was pleasantly entertained. She wouldn't be making friends with media types if she wasn't. No matter, she's her own woman. She could do what she wants so long as she doesn't do anything to ruin herself. I'm sure Mrs. Wright is aware of that, sir. That she is. But we aren't here to talk about her, are we? What's this about today? The city is a long way from here, on pushbike no less. Yeah, I was actually hoping to talk to her. Of course. Here for another headline, perhaps? Not exactly, sir. I'm off work. This is for something else. That's what they always say. The next thing you know, you're facing the front page of every conceivable scandal sheet going all the way to the ass end of Plymouth. You media types have such an insatiable taste of gossip. It's almost amazing. There won't be any of it in the interior design magazine, sir. I can assure you of that one. You never know. Well-trained hounds have an uncanny way of snuffing out things no matter where you keep them. I do admire the passion, though. It takes a lot of energy for someone to leave their bed this early, let alone knock at someone's door at this hour. That aside, unfortunately, you're going to have to come back some other day. You see, darling wife had left not a moment ago. I have not an inkling where she went or when she'll be back, so you're better off. Le visit the movers. He stopped speaking altogether and complacent expression has collapsed on itself. Yeah, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, Luke. Slowly he turns just as his wife walks up to him with a step too lively for comfort, a smile too sweet to be honest. She's very likely heard everything her husband and I had talked about. Going off somewhere? I've got the few things I want to transfer already. Mary Ann made this splendid arrangement for the music room and... Love, are you listening? I thought you already left, Buttercup. She musters a frown, a pout more like. The mischievous gleam in her eyes when she glances at me says all there I need to know. I would have laughed at antiques if it wouldn't offended the other man. But as it is, it's better to let his wife have her fun without any reaction from mine. For me, I'm treading on dangerous grounds with him already. Well, I most certainly have not left yet. I wouldn't be standing here if I did, would I? Of course you wouldn't be, darling. But don't you need to be somewhere else today? Something with Mary Ann? Shopping? Girl things? Oh, I'll be leaving in a few, unless you want to join us. No thanks, darling. I'm afraid my liver is killing me today. I thought as much. You needn't have to worry, I'll be gone in a few. It's just that I heard we had a visitor. What kind of person would I be if I didn't greet him before leaving? A very gracious one, I'm sure. Zachery, right? Zach? It's a pleasure to see you again. Likewise, ma'am. I was actually looking for you. Is that so? What for? A huge display of unprofessionalism is what it's for. Shush, darling. Let the man speak. I'm sure it isn't anything like that if he has to come all the way here, yes? It's about yesterday, the photographs you asked, I mean. The copies are ready, but my hands still as I am about to fish out the prints of my pocket. A short second passes, that which strikes me that I didn't think that this all through. How I'm going to tell her regarding the strange photos or revealing this to her in the presence of another person. Her husband gazing over us like a hawk doesn't provide any sort of comfort either. And just like that, all the words I've been practicing to say on the way here inevitably fall stiffly off my mouth. Miss Wright must have noticed my hesitation, but shortly she gives her husband's arm a gentle squeeze, a tender smile gracing her face. Unlike the first, this one is meant to appease. I think Hansi might need some of your input for the final guest list. Could you check on him, please? Blah! Why in all Luxburn do I have to be there, doing tedious jobs of what he's been paid for? Because if we end up with people whose faces you don't want to show up in our housewarming party, we won't be hearing the end of it. Unless a heavy dose of liqueur is involved. You know what the doctor said about that. Please do poor Hansi, and you'll leave a favour. He can handle that on his own, Buttercup, and my liver is doing just fine. I'm sure it is, but I don't know, love. I think I caught a glimpse of the name Match Lakes, wasn't it? Was it? I think it was Match Lakes on it when I checked with Hansi earlier. You should see it for yourself. It was quite a list. Who paid that blight blank? Who put that blight blank in there? Blighted blank. And that's why I'm asking you to look over it before I do so tonight. Very well. But even with that promise, he didn't appear ready to leave. Short of passing through the doors, he stops and glances back at me, all without bothering to hide the distrust in his eyes. Luke, dear, I'll be fine. Go back to your butler. I'm not some pregnant wife you have to worry about. Fine, fine. I have to go to that little ankle biter's care a day later anyway. I don't see why I have to go there. Kylie's your goddaughter. And yet she has you around her little fingers, darling. That's basically the same thing. If he ever has an answer to that, why don't we get to hear it above the heavy thud the door makes, and Mrs. Wright own weary exhales after she's my reading's going off points then. After she's sure her husband is out of earshot, she's nothing but apologetic when she fixes her gaze back to me, and I can't help but return the same to her. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. My husband can be a bit trying when he's really applied himself. It's fine, Miss Wright. No harm done. It was my fault for showing up here unannounced. And this might be strange coming from me, but he does have the right to be wary. The press can be quite vicious when it wants to be. Caught unexpectedly, they'll pick you apart. It is not surprising why he acted the way he did around me. Sweetie, if Luke treats every journalist who shows up here like that, I'm afraid we'll end up with a harassment lawsuit hanging over our heads sometime in the future. Vicious or not, some sort of financier has to be exercised when dealing with them. I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't too offensive. Not at all, Miss Wright. Besides, I don't think an interior design magazine would be interested in who harassed who this week, unless it has something to do with fighting over tastefully arranged furniture. But even then, I don't think our readers would be too interested. Oh dear, you've got a lot to learn. You really have no idea how a single tattle can ignite a spark in the crowd. Of course, at the end of the day, it is the thought that counts. It is still a lovely anniversary gift for my husband. No matter, let's just go. She doesn't wait for an answer, immediately wanders over a car parked some distance from us. I'm sure I find myself trailing after her. A giraffe automatically opens the passenger side door as she nears, and she gestures for me to follow when she climbs into the back seat. To where are we going exactly? I need to get out of this stuffy house for a while. Moving in, playing the party, it's starting to get suffocating there. Luke and Hansi can have their fun while I'm gone. I don't care. I'm getting out because I can. Another minute and then I'll drown. My bike. There are of course a lot of things questionable about her invitation. Why she's asking a person she has only known for less than 2 days in the first place is one. How appropriate this is has been another. But the rest of it crashes the moment she shoots me an imploring look. Please, I can have someone send it back to your address later, and it's just a trip to the city for some furniture. Nothing more, I assure you. Marianne will be us, and maybe you can tell me why you're here on the way. I guess it wouldn't hurt. I might have to leave early, though. Excellent. Then hop in. That's what they often say, yes? This can't be a good idea, but I don't really have another other choice, do I? Especially the way with her eyes light up when I agree to it. In my pocket, the very picture of her remains faceless, a voiceless shadow hanging threateningly between us, unknown to her. Okay. Disturbed, Zachery decided to show the photographs to Hannah herself. He was greeted by a weary look right upon arrival at the mansion. Just in time, Hannah appeared to save Zachery from further interrogation. At her request, Zachery accompanied her to Luxburn City. Yeah, a really special frown right there. If someone told me I had to be spending my entire morning being dragged around half the downtown Luxburn looking for furniture, I probably wouldn't simply smile at them. Then perhaps even give them the good friendly pat on the shoulder and wish them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, this is most definitely a nice change of pace after weeks of getting blotted down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside my apartment whenever I can. If only the weather would be a whole lot nicer, the kind with less sun and more clouds perhaps. With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us as high noon approaches, I can see why Mr. Wright skipped out on this trip. The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Mrs. Wright in a less somber mood. After the fifth store, her pace is considerably livelier, her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the mansion earlier. The presence of another person might have helped as well. Although Miss McClough seems less predisposed to small talk, preferring to keep to herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us wherever. She did acknowledge me with a small nod when we were introduced earlier, but that didn't make standing outside the store together any less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside. So, interior design, huh? She cast me a sidelong glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper in a quick successive strokes. Ah, there goes that. I did say I'm not any good at starting or keeping conversations going, did I? She doesn't look back up again, and I take that as my cue to stop any attempt to strike in a dialogue with her, and keep myself occupied with some other thing. Except what we have here is just Luxburn and its busy streets. People going about their day like normal, cars moving in and out of sight, heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable really. The ease with which a person can fade into the background here is reflective of the kind of a city Luxburn will always be. But the humdrum's one thing I've learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay that way. There are times when it would come alive, make itself known, and reassert itself back to the world. However, those memories are few and far in between. Then again, with what graces the news channels lately, I'm starting to think it's going to happen sooner. Can't say I'm looking forward to when it'll bring. Luxury living, is it? Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts just as I count the 13th passerby wearing a hat today. Beside me I can hear the faint rustling of paper and the clicking of pen as she stashes them back to her bag. Excuse me, what? The magazine you're working for is Luxury Living, isn't it? Oh yeah, you've been featured by them before, I take it. A few years back, yes. For just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, but not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right? It may not show in her face, but pride is evident in her voice. Good folks. The people running for a publication tell me. Is DK still in the editorial team? Oh, I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know. Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him. Actually, even if we both came from two different fields, I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while. Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this. I wouldn't say I am, but experience, you know, the more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade, that kind of stuff. I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with that competition. Each year a new talent emerges, and well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices, believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this? I think so, depends on how big the project is. She reaches into her bag again. Marianne McClough. Try Rose Designs. Okay, this time to put her business card when she hands it over to me. When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris, he's my assistant. He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better. Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in, but alright, I'll give it a go once. Marianne, could you look this over for me? At the very moment this right emerges from the store, when I look back to Miss McGlough, a mask of professionalism has returned to her, or at least it's what it's trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes as she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that would be too presumptuous. Whatever it is doesn't last, and it's briskly swept under the firm of her voice assumes. Definitely, is there a problem? They say they don't have the colours you suggested. Do you think we could change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want. And you know I'd rather not worry about this later. I think better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me. She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Miss Wright lets out a giggle and sweeps the business card clean off my hand. She smiles, a bemused little thing spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'll do that more often, the smiling thing. It suits her more than the other ones she frequently shows to the media. I look away and the next thing you're picking up women on the streets while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appeased or amazed. Whatever happens to the Zach I met a day ago, about as tall as you, photographer, quite the gentleman. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone. It ain't like that, Miss Wright, and I'm sure Miss Clough is not the kind of woman who'll let herself be picked up by strangers, let alone by people she barely knows. Oh, Chess, let me have my fun. And didn't I say you could call me Hannah? That's right, after you introduce yourself as my friend in front of my husband, I believe this isn't how friends address to each other. Too formal, don't you think? She gives the card back to me, nonetheless, and with it, her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful. As she looks back towards the shop display and window, there's nothing remotely interesting in it for me when I follow her line of sight, though. A few trinkles here and there, a fur rug, a sofa, a wooden side table, and a lamp, all tastefully picked and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. I was thankful for it, does look comfortable. But why they added a crib beside it baffles me. Unless, of course, the people they're hoping to market to are those who already have children, or about to have one. Maybe it is fitting. Peculiar choice of decorations aside, it does make for a nice icebreaker, if it's not on the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. It still leaks better than the awkward silence, which is definitely too out of character for a personality like Miss Hannah's. Do you think a crib will look cute? I think that one looks cute. My sister just had a baby, you know. She tears her attention away from the window and looks at me with an incredulous expression on her face, like I just asked her to drive off a cliff. She relaxes eventually, but I can't get the image of her like that off my mind. I hope I didn't say anything to offend. Oh, what brought this on? Nothing, it's just a thought. She gave birth a few weeks ago. I suppose a recreation is an order then. Thanks, I'll let her know. Do you think a crib will make a good gift? I'm sure she'd love that if she didn't have one yet. Otherwise, maybe clothes, or things she could use to take care of her baby. You realise I'm the last person you should be asking about this, yes? Oh, it's her first baby, don't worry. I haven't bought a gift yet, since I'm kind of new to this too, you know, the whole being an uncle thing. For a long time, it's just been me, sis, and my grandparents. Now there's a little person who came into the world as part of the family. Who'd have thought, huh? Please don't tell me you're jealous. Of course not. But I gotta admit, the very idea takes a lot of getting used to and, you know, scary stuff like, what if I drop her or end up teaching her something bad, or I can't stop making her cry, or something warm presses against my arm. gentle as it can be, which stops the rest of my words from coming out. Her hand, I realised belatedly, when I looked to her, there's nothing but warmth in her smile. She's been doing that a lot in the past few hours, I can't help but return it to her. Sad, sweetie, stop. You're panicking, it's going to be fine. I don't know, Hannah, maybe I'm not cut out to be a good uncle. Don't be silly, you're probably the best one there is. Might even make a good father when the time comes. Whoever you choose to be with will be lucky to have someone like you, I'm sure. At this, her expression softens, sadness flitting into her eyes for a little while before she looks away. I'm the one who's worried if I'll ever make a good mother. Luke doesn't seem to even want one of his own. How pitiful is that? 7 years and we're still on this point. I don't even know what to call it anymore. Now, I'm carrying this other life with me, while the father doesn't want anything to do with it. What am I going to do, Zach? Because right now, I'm absolutely at a loss. Oh, a beat. Oh, the realization strikes me like a ton of bricks suddenly bearing down on me. More of an astonishment must have shown on my face, because Hannah lets out a chuckle. The slump of her shoulders disappears altogether underneath her mirth. Don't look so surprised, dearie. Tied a knot 7 years ago, remember? Don't you think it's bound to happen? She brandishes her hand in front of me, the unassuming silver band on her finger glinting against the late morning sunlight for a second. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the trace of sadness in her voice. For all I know, there's an entire story there. I'd ask, but that would be too inappropriate even for friends. It's not my place to meddle to begin with. Or at least, that's what I've been saying earlier on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming. But the kid is something you want, right? Because if it ain't, then that's a whole nother problem. Excuse me. Of course. I won't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about. Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model. I practically grew up with nursemaids, pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well? Oh, I can already see how this will end. I guess it's not just my sister. What? You and my sister? I mean, you both have jitters on something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters. Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then. Even called me in the middle of the night, asked to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is. I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet. Oh, you don't know then. My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. She says she's one cranky, pregnant lady. Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before their bundle of joy arrived. It can't be that awful. Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Wright to decide, yeah. Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up. Then maybe you should say it to his face. No mincing of words or beating around the bushes. And if he says no, you haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men? I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course, but there ought to be something with that will hit him in that idea alone. A wrecking ball would be nice. Laughter escaped before I could stop it. For a moment I thought I'd done something wrong when she doesn't join in. He's still her husband, no matter what gists or complaints she hurls about him behind the media's eyes or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does her tuckle, a small hesitant sound at first, I found the rest of my unease slipping away. But whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen, in the same way you don't know if you'll be a good mum. Trust me, my sister's been there, it's perfectly normal. In my opinion though, if my opinion matters though, a long second of indecision goes by. I can feel her eyes filled with nothing but curiosity, boring into me while she waits for the rest. It's just a simple statement, but one thing I think she needs to hear for all the doubt she's unwittingly placed on herself, I'm just not sure if it should come from me. Oh, I'll be damned. I think you'll be a great mother, Hannah. If she has an answer to that, I didn't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it's out of my mouth, a bell hanging over the antique store's doors chimes, and out comes... Sorry. Out comes Mary Ann. For more than one reason, I've never been so relieved our talk got interrupted. Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. They'll have everything you requested delivered early. I left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check on a few things. I hope that's acceptable to you. More then, Mary. Excuse me. This is a little early to say, but you did marvellous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow. I'm only doing my job, ma'am. Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work. Nonsense, you have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still get sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes. I'll see if I can introduce them to them tomorrow. I really don't want to impulse, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself. You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur Le Photography. You better be the one taking the photos of the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset. I blanket her confused. Last I checked, I have nothing scheduled on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects, but with the expectant expression on Hannah's face alone, I wondered before if it got Isabel to sell the mansion with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well, now the how is already standing in front of me, and it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. If I have any doubts how she's got around life, all of them will be dispelled right this instant. Hannah hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be. What event? Our housewarming party, dearie. I already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now. I may have probably missed it. I haven't got a chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real life happenings, you know, that can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet. That's not a problem, nothing a little call for me can't fix. I'll have them know if I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you show up. I expect you to see you both there, no excuses. Good company, good music, good food, of course I'll be there. Lovely. I hope we'll have that settled then. I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this. You two will have to excuse me. Are you feeling fine, ma'am? It's nothing big. There is a short while in which her hand faintly touches her stomach when she says this. Her smile, as she does so, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid has already loved even when he or she has yet to have a sense of the world. Candid moments like this, I wish I bought a camera for. Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but well, you two know how it goes. It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well. Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way. No, please, there's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city. I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion. Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later. Nah, I live within the city, a few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because... yeah, for photos! Damn, I've completely forgotten about them! When you just realise the realisation of why you went there in the first place, and now it just all suddenly kicks in. My hand grazes beside my pocket, which I've kept them since this morning, and sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see them. Because, Zach Sweeting, you're zoning out. Miss Hannah, early at the mansion. Oh, this is gonna be so great. This is gonna be so good. Show her the photos. Pretty as a picture. I think it'd be better if you take a look at these yourself. Seeing is believing, right? My goodness sakes. Yeah, that's dropped down. Oh my goodness sakes, that's great. I reached in my pocket and put up the photos, handing everything to her. Maybe it would have just been best if we did not show the photos at all. Found it led out to the best of it. I reach into my pocket and pull out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and after stamp down the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having to begone to show it to her. Much better to just not show her the photos. Only it cuts deeper the instant both her and Miss' expression changes, and it's not a good look. To say she repulsed would be a total understatement. All this time, Hannah has been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour and the camera lens, she's a whole different person. But as she goes through each of the photos, I can't get an easy read of her. Zachery, what is this? Your photos one you requested copies for. I mean, they came out that way, and I thought you should know. Oh, I get it, you know. I've heard before that artists could be a bit weird. Have you ever forgotten that kind of comment, Marianne? Not in my line of work, I'm afraid, or ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual work. Less stress that way. Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter. Oh no, you see, when we had the photo shoot yesterday, there was something. I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible to give me normal looking ones, preferably with my head intact? I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic. Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home, so please. She drops them back in my hands like the very surface burns her. If you could redo this, that would be wonderful. I'm positive you could do a better job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum, Yeah, I can, sure. You could take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go. She leaves without so much of a wave. I don't have to take a guess to know I've dismayed her. Or in her own words, weirded her out. Yeah. What are the odds I also ruined my chances with the job she offered earlier? Very high, I'd say. It's a foolish idea in the first place. Yeah, I knew that there was only going to be one conclusion out of all that, and it weren't going to be great. At Luxburn City, Zachery and Hannah met with Marianne McClough. While Marianne was busy, Hannah disclosed her pregnancy and her frustrations to Zach at the end of the talk. Zachery showed her the photos, which earned the disapproval of both women. For goodness sakes, that's going to be the case, you know. Miss McClough departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something about getting a quick lunch before fetching whatever that is from Chris. I don't know what or who Bruffley is. It must be important for her to be in this kind of hurry, and well, she doesn't seem to be fond of small talks, something which we can both agree on. Lunch sounds good, or a walk around the city maybe, but with the sun as high as it is now, nah. And after how things with Miss Hannah went, I certainly can't mutter the appetite for anything at the moment. If I don't do anything with it now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again, and by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash, Rebecca? In all likelihood, all they'll give me is a pat on the back and a Z-Man, go get some sleep, you're at it again, from Ash. I talked to Isabel, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up at my apartment 2 days ago. Weird. There is one person, though. Damn, I should have thought of it first. As it turns out, I do have another choice. I'm not a religious person. I won't identify myself as such, or rather, I can't. Surely my grandparents didn't have to force me to go weekly. I'd happily join them. In fact, most of my childhood Sundays have been spent attending service. It's simply that as you get older, the more experience you get, forming your own beliefs on things becomes easier, for lack of a better word. And at one point, it just stopped that kind of thing. Nevertheless, I hold no disdain for it. Sometimes it does help. When things are really, really bad, when the dreams won't stay where they should be. Talking does a bit. It's also a good thing Father Norman, well, he's not completely the pious man you typically expect. My unlikely friendship only probably happened because he's the kind of guy who's cool with the young ones, as he aptly puts. And he is surprisingly, it makes him easy to approach, like that one time with Isabel. I don't think he believes in the ghost kind. but there he went. Maybe he has something to say about the photos as well. It won't hurt since I've already gone ahead and went to the asylum. At daybreak on my break, at the very least, I know I won't get shouted at by whoever answers the door. Unless someone does that inside a church, I highly doubt it. Despite its age, the Luxembourg Church is a thing of wonder in itself, with its high vaulted ceilings and intricate stained glass windows. One of the many gifts the Ermengarde family donated to the community in its early days. Or so I heard from Rebecca. She mentioned this once, although most of it flew over my head then. At this time of the day, the church is mostly empty, save for a few visitors and ushers shuffling about, some muttering their praise under their breath. The scene of a burning candle and incense permeate the air, giving the place a general feeling of reverence. Pretty welcoming all in all. Even so, I kept the noise my treads make to a minimum. Disturbing the quiet feels like a sin alone. An usher points me to a power in front of the altar when asked where Father Norman prays. He mentions something about a good priest not being in good health. Ever since he did a favour for a friend to bless an old house, this is the first time in days he has left this room. No surprise there, with the weird heat lately. Even Rebecca caught something. Nervous little chap, the kid. Nonetheless, he leads me close to the foot of the dais, with a reminder not to stay too long before walking off. Seconds later, Father shifts and stands. He doesn't seem to have noticed me, and I have to give him a little tap on the shoulder. When he looks though, to say he's surprised is an understatement. Stay away! Ah, that's probably why. It's me, Father. His voice comes out of a whisper, almost inaudible in the hush. A quiet restraint and defiance to where we both are standing, but the tremor is there. He focuses on me with wide bulging eyes. Copious amount of sweating appears on his forehead despite the relative coolness of the place. Father Norman? Keep your distance. Hey, it's me, Zachery, remember? Stay away, don't come near. It must be the fever talking, or whatever he caught. It has to be. I don't recall ever doing anything for him to drive me away like this. In all the years I've known him, he's been nothing but polite, nothing but accepting of people regardless of beliefs or status in life. For words akin to a threat to come out of him, it's simply beyond unimaginable. Go back to where you came from, leave. Father, what did I do? Leave now! I extend a hand to his shoulder, it meant to be reassuring. But he recoils, his ankle catching on the edge of the dais as he backs away. His shouts when I turn to reach out again echoes through the entire hall, catching the attention of a few people inside. I try to keep a level tone, but with these strangers' eyes trained on us, panic starts to weave its way into me. Stay away, demon. Go back to hell where you came from. Father, it's okay. I only came here for some pictures I thought looked odd. I figured you might know something. From my pocket, I fish out photos and try to hand it to him. Instead, he strikes my wrist away, almost like an accusation, and sends the photographs flustering uselessly to the floor. Helpless. Helpless. I can only watch as he crawls into I can only watch as he curls into himself in a grad, a sad, bubbly mess whimpering to himself. He taps his head forward and begins rocking, his hands clamped over his ears. The accursed spirit, so full of anger and pain. All those horrible things I've seen. Can't sleep, can't eat, everywhere I look. Go away, go away, go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is the house of God. Be gone, demon. Lord have mercy. God, our Lord, King of ages, all-powerful and almighty. You who made everything and who transport everything simply by your will. Disappointed because he wasn't able to accomplish his mission with Hannah, Zachery went to his friend Father Norman for advice. However, in an unexpected turn of events, the priest vehemently pushed Zachery away, laying curses and calling him a demon. Great. A number of people have moved closer, mostly just to gawk. Thankfully, as if to save him from being an utter spectacle, two ushers came out, talking taking him away. One of them, the kid from earlier, shoots me an apologetic look. I can't even return it to him. Anxiety is a powerful thing. A firm little notion cleans, eats, and it consumes you. I can still hear his prayers even as they drag him away. May he keep at bay and vanquish every evil power, every poison or malice invoked against us by corrupt and envious people. Then, under the protection of your authority, may we sing in gratitude. Keep saying graduate. It rings, hums in me as I left to pick up pieces of this chaos. Back to square one we go. If there is salvation of this, I hope we can find it soon. Damn it. Okay. Let's see. Where did I save off? I think it was this one over here. Not yet. Okay. The moon is well into the night sky by the time I make it back home. My heavy treads and the sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some semblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me walk like that, but after today I really can't give a damn about everything. The mistress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop it down on it, and I found myself looking at the paper under the grip. Be there. As promised, Miss Wright had my bike delivered back to my apartment. Found it parked in the rack downstairs with an invitation and a note ticked to it, in fact. Be there, it said. If only if it were that easy, but it would give me a chance to talk to her. About that thing in that house. With a sigh, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed along with invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow. When my head ain't muddled with the thoughts of a headless woman and the haunting smiles of a ghost. Blatantly, it occurs to me I haven't eaten anything since I left this morning, and an empty, gory ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time, and frankly a disappointment. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on, the part where I do not know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damn letter, everything has been thrown out of loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make sense than of this. Closing my eyes, I let the noise of the streets below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's one thing that hasn't changed. Going for all these. That would have processed to that one, actually. Far forward in time. Story update, that. Story update, that. Common root. Story update, that. Is it just story updates, or is there actually something else to this? Story update, common root, common root, common root. Common root, show pictures, don't show pictures. Would have led to that one. Process through, probably also led to that one. Also, some previous choices in the past would have also must have influential towards this decision. Well, went to Ash actually would have been a better idea actually. For all of our sakes. Zachery's chapter is enormous. I'm not gonna lie. The very least is one thing that hasn't changed. October the 29th, Saturday. Dreaming. The melody carries into the hall long before I cross the threshold. Solemn but gentle and soothing, a reminder of what home is. Past firm but meaningful gaze, Mars wistful smiles, the warm rays filtering through the eaves at sunset, the distinct smell of wet earth and leaves along a long day's rain in our room. The room. Ma and Pa's pride of joy, a place we were once promised several springs ago. Yet it won't stop. No, wait, come back, I'll be good this time. Please don't leave me, please stay. The floorboards are cold under my feet more than it usually is, the walls more forbidding than what I'm used to. Farther and further the room goes. Ma's singing ceases, and Pa, I can't hear Pa. Not above the miraculous scream and the deafening roar of gunshots, nor the screams replacing the comforting soft melodies. There's only the blinding fear. But when the light breaks, her skin has already taken a sickly pale colour, rotted in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and naze in her body. Bony hands grip Hannah's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes. A scream ripples through the air. My whole body feels distant, every limb heavy with lead, all unable to move at will. Not even so I can wipe the beads of sweat forming at my temple. The rasping of my breath easily fills the room in the wee hours, when our force sits back into a steady rhythm. There is a tightness in my chest I can't shake off. My heart pounds against it as if it's about to burst out. Something cold has settled in my legs. Not the usual chill that comes and goes with a passing breeze from the window, but one strong enough to sting, shackle, and leave a frigid sensation creeping up my skin. With every struggle I make, the pressure winds firmly around my legs, tighter and tighter and tighter, all until it becomes too much. My heart stops. Another draft sweeps into the room and brings with it the iron tang of blood, thick, suffocating, filling my nose with a foul, sickening smell as I shift my gaze downwards, and it slowly comes into view. Well, I'm glad you're there, madam. Mouth stretched in a hideous smile and eyes brimming with nothing but madness. The stench of gore taints the air around me and I can't look away from it. Her. From the terror and death that her uncanny twisted features alone scream. I try to open my mouth, to shut, to ask for any help, but my voice has left my body altogether. All I have is the painful realization that no kind of plea will ever save me from her, when suddenly the bed dips. What the... The brutal plunge back into myself jerks me awake. There's no ear-splitting scream, no wild thrashing of limbs. Just a painful, constricting awareness that something has wound itself tightly around my neck. I'll waste no second pulling it, a blanket, away, but allow myself a few minutes to steady my breathing before getting off the bed. Inhale, hold, exhale. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. But the dreams have gotten worse. Ever since 2 days ago, no longer are they small, curious flashes I'm used to, but vivid ones that linger. I can still feel the blood in my hands, the putrid smell of rotting flesh, the sickening crunch of bones breaking with every movement, and her cold, chilling eyes as they bore into me. I draw in one long, rigid breath, and before I knew it, I'm walking out the door. Even in the waking world it reeks. A bench on the park is far from the most private place for us in Nuxburn, considering its location at the heart of a bustling city. But in the early hours of the morning it provides enough space and quiet for any poor problematic soul who happens to wander here. The city is just waking up a little later than usual, but knowing what day it is, one can't fault for being a little tardy just this once. Yet neither the pleasant morning chill nor the soft tweeting of birds does anything to banish the images. Every single one has rooted inside my head, its claws digging deeper into what is no longer a safe place to hide in.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling
It used to be
down.
easy finding some pretense of peace under the guise of sheer optimism, following regular routine. Now I don't know what to make of it. Sometimes it's easier to run, easier to hide when everything's falling apart. That way, you don't have to be the first to witness it when it does. It worked when things went bad with the movie, after all. It also worked when Ma and Pa were taken from us. Though the settlement's a little hypocritical when you think about my little talk with Miss Wright the other day. But that's just how it is. Maybe it really is better if I just... Hey, mister? The tiny voice gives me a pause. When I look up, a little girl, maybe about 6 or 7, is purring at me. 2 wide eyes overflowing with what could only be the natural curiosity one typically sees in children. I vaguely note the St. Gregory uniform she's wearing before returning her greeting. Hey kid. Kylie, that's my name. Mother said it's rude not to call people by their names. She then flops down on the empty space beside me. Her little legs, still too short to touch the ground, swings in tone with a song she hums under her breath. I don't mind kids. Nana would often invite the ones in our neighbourhood to give them treats. Of course, the sis and I were both too old to play with them. But you get used to the commotion eventually. It's not completely as unpleasant as most people would imply. Kylie seems to be a well-behaved kid anyway. Oh, sorry. Nice to meet you, Kylie. Is Mama here? No, but my big brother's with me. He's taking pictures with his camera over there. She points to the far end of the park, the one closest to the street where a kid is taking shots of something above him. It doesn't look to be the birds, because all there is on that side of the park are buildings. I don't see what's so interesting with the tip of a building, though. I'd take pictures of dogs if I were him. They're cuter. You have a camera too, mister? Yes, I'm actually a photographer. Mama says I'm too young to get a camera. I'm sure your mama will eventually give you one. But won't you be late for school like this? Big brother will get us there on time. Well and promised, Papa. We aren't going to be late, it's sports day. So it's not good if you keep looking like that today. If it ends up raining and we lose, it's your fault. Alright, I try not to upset the class today, kid. Is it because you're sick, mister? Before I know it, a smile has spread over my face. They say kids ask the toughest questions sometimes, and they sure do. With how sincere Kylie looks. Lying feels like doing her a huge disservice. No, not sick. Just having a very, very bad day. Why is that? Is that like when my big brother ate all my pudding? He did that once and I cried. It wasn't very nice of him. Yeah, I think so. You see, there's this mean girl. She's giving my friends and I a lot of trouble. Hard to keep up when things are like that, you know. Especially when you can't do anything. It's kind of scary. Makes you wish things would just stay as peaceful as they used to be. Maybe she just wants to be friends with you. I highly doubt that. She already hurt one of my friends. What if she's just sad, or maybe she just wants help? You know, the most simplest things children can say can actually be the most obvious answer. That's what happened with Melody. I let her borrow my crayon when she left. That's what happened with Melody. I let her borrow my crayon when she left hers. Now we're playmates. It's not really the same thing, Kylie. What she did, they're pretty bad things. I still think there's another reason. Did you try talking to her? That's what Mama said I should do. I don't think that'll work either. You haven't even tried yet. You sound like Rowan. You're just scared, mister. That sounds a chore. That strikes a chord. Maybe it's the honesty in her tone or simply the truth in those words herself. I don't know why, but I can't help it. I laugh. Laughing after the disturbing elderly couple taking a leisure walk nearby. Why are you laughing? Nothing. You're a real smart kid, you know that. That's what I've been doing, ain't it? Going full speed ahead, then backtrack when the going gets tough. Stay in my safe zone because that's what I know. Once Dr. Navarra said I should be the first one willing to deal with my problems before anyone else. I didn't show up on our next appointment after that. But he's right. Although I hate to admit it, knowing what I've seen, but the kid makes a good point too. I've been so caught up thinking that there might not be a way out. Maybe there isn't. Or maybe there is. But that doesn't mean I should just leave it up to fate. You better get to school though, or you'll miss sports day. Be sure to win yourself some awards, alright? Alright. Can I show it to you when I'm done? I can cheer people up, right? In the distance, her brother calls for her, and I took that as a sign to leave. Got things to do, to face. the first few steps, they say. Nah, I'm good, I think. Thanks to you, besides, Mr. needs to go. But you should show it to Mama and Papa. I'm sure they'll be proud of you, Kylie. I will, thanks, Mr. Bye. I gave her a little pat on the head before heading my way. A small gesture of thanks from a stranger she didn't know she might have helped. She might not understand it now, even though at such a young age she already has this understanding of things. But maybe when she's older, when the world no longer seems too big for her. But aren't you going to help me, mister? With what? Confused, I glanced back. Well then, it seems that spirit has been drilled upon her as well. Great. Whatever cheer our little talk brought has vanished under the shadow suddenly dancing in my eyes. This frigid air is almost definitely not how the morning chill should feel like. Bitter, stinging, unwelcoming. And the kid. What do you think, Kyle? Are you going to help me? Leave us alone. What did we do to you? The response never comes, however. Because when I blinked... Gone? Hello, mister. Are you okay? For several passing seconds, I let my stare linger on her face, waiting for any sign of another change. But all that remains in there is the carefree smile of a child. Nothing of a spite, nothing of a cold, bloody smile. Nothing. I really need to go, Kyle. It was nice meeting you. See you again, mister. I break into a run. These are going to be the things which will not... Ah, we got a pen... Okay. All contradicting on the same days. Zachery nightmares become worse with each passing day. To help clear his mind of the untoward things, Zachery took a visit to the park. There he met little Kyle Shores, a precious young girl studying at St. something. I break into a run. I don't look back, not even as I bump into a couple of passerbys as soon as I mount on the busy streets. Going insane. This is what it is. And if we don't do something soon, we all will be. The tremors follow me even as I get home. I had hoped a little stroll around the block for a few hours would help. Instead, I am assaulted with more images of her. Her smile, the loathing in her eyes, the stench of gore, the horrid church that comes with every moment she makes. Even old memories have been soiled by her, and Mama's song no longer sounds as sweet as it meant to be. In the end, all I got is a sinking feeling I would never be rid of her image, and another ridiculous idea that may or may not even work. The sun is already hanging low on the horizon when I make it back, and for the first time, coming home feels more like a chore. Only I didn't arrive to an empty room, because as soon as I open the door, I am greeted by none other than... Sup, Z-Man? I told you we should have called him before going here. It's fine. Ah, it's Ashton and Isabel. It is Ashton I see first, sitting comfortably on my couch, munching on a bag of chips with both feet propped atop the coffee table. Whatever proverbial stone has made a home at the pit of my stomach automatically flies right out the window at the sight of him. But before any aspiration can sit in, my attention is taken by the other occupant in the room. Isabel perches onto the only other chair in the room, attempting to make herself smaller, it seems, from how closely she's hugging her arms against her. Nevertheless, she gives me a small smile when she notices my stare. Yet somehow, there ain't any warmth in it like it's supposed to have. Hey Zach, Zoe just barged in. Ash was... Relax, Z-Man gave me a copy of the key himself. Only after you broke the 13th one. I can't keep replacing them every time you think it'd be a good idea to break into my apartment. And stop calling me Z-Man. I didn't break anything this time. Ash, just because I gave you a key doesn't mean you can just stroll on here whenever you want to. And hey, is that my... Ash smirks at me because, of course, he has the goal to smirk. He has the goal to smirk, knowing what he's did. He pops in what's very likely the last piece of chip into his mouth and folds the wrapper neatly on the table before throwing it on the nearby trash. From her chair, Isabel shoots me an apologetic smile as soon as the foil hits the waste bin with a dull thunk. Common sense dictates that I should be angry, but after everything, having someone normal play out in front of me, no matter how childish their antiques can get, I can't bring myself to muster even a tad bit of it. Behind me, the television starts blaring the music at the end of credits of a movie. They have likely been waiting for a while Ash got impatient enough to rummage through my cupboards and watch something. Course he eats all of it, you know. I was saving that for the weekend. Did you really share some with Bella? Don't worry about it, I'm good, Zach. Really, it's free food, you know. What was that you usually say? You don't say no to free food. What happened? No, I'm just not hungry. Ash only shrugs at the question in my eyes. I can't be the only one who finds the vibe she's giving off to be odd, and the guy has no doubt already caught the wind of. Alright, but if you want something, just say so. I've got a fully restocked pantry right here at your disposal. Still not a 5-star level thing, but for an empty stomach, it'd do. Just say the word. Thanks, Ash. Maybe next time. Food isn't something what we came here for. Ash, she's the one who... She casts a brief glance at Ash. In an instant, he sits up. Every trace of amusement has gone from his face as he claps his hand in front of him and leans forward. A minuscule gesture meant to ease, yet a grim expression on him tells a different story altogether. Alright, you two, what's this about? I don't like those looks. A short but tense pause follows. They're both stalling. Under normal circumstances, I'd wait with these two. The more you force it, the more they'll clamp down on it. But as a handful of seconds continue to slip by, the uncertainty feeling in me almost grows with it. Soon it turns into impatience. Before I could demand a response, though, one of them finally speaks up. It is Isabel who breaks it first. We just thought we should check on you. After what happened to Rose, Please don't tell me something happened again. No, nothing. None so far. And we're keeping it that way as much as possible. Ash, it's not that easy. There isn't some... We don't know that. Let me... The bitter frustration in his tone is impossible to miss, but he catches it as soon as Isabel draws back. He allows himself a moment to breathe before dropping it dropping it for one less hushed, more tempered, gentler. Let me look at this first, okay? I agree to help, but you've got to let me handle things from now on. I already told you everything. There must be something we're not seeing in this just yet. We'll sort this out, but no more silly ideas of running around on your own. You're making people worry more than necessary, Becky, especially. So everything's fine? Depends on who you're asking. How are things with you? Any odd? Good, I guess. Admittedly, how things went down at a warm housing party last night threw me off a bit. I'm not asking about that. Remember the letter thing Isabel's been yapping on about? I'm asking about that kind of odd. I look at him. Gapped more like. His serious expression doesn't waver despite the perplexed look I shoot him. There's a brief second I let pass as I wait for the heavens to fall somewhere. It doesn't come. The sky is still bathed in vibrant reddish hues as it waits for the night to arrive. Luxman is still the same busy city, and everything in my room still appears as it did a second ago, including the unnerving tickling of my wall clock. But if Ashton, calm, cool, collected, always logical Ashton takes interest in this, something or someone must have blanks up somewhere. Well, the dreams, they're a lot worse than usual. There's a woman now, ever since we saw that letter. I don't know if it's the same one Isabel talked about. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. I really don't want to go back to sleep sometimes. Last night was the worst. Anyway, why are you asking about this? Rose's death isn't just a coincidence, Zach. It may have something to do with... I may have... Wait, stop right there for a second, Bella. I thought you ain't buying this stuff, Ash. Just the other day you said the exact same thing. I still don't. But even Rebecca, out of all people, claims there's something. Whatever this is, someone has got to look into it. Everything about this screams shady. Are you sure you even have the time? Aren't you busy with your current case? I've got taken off that one. You didn't say you were taking off the case. I just got the news this morning. Apparently the higher ups think I'm doing a horrendous job at it. It doesn't matter though. If these two cases are connected, that I initially thought, then regardless, I'm on the right track. Are you sure we should be even doing this? Doing what exactly? There's some place we'll visit after this. Too late for comfort, Ash. And please don't tell me you're bringing her with you. Her affirmation comes in the form of a stare, but that alone says all I need to know. What I pointed out gives him a pause, though, and his voice is thick with hesitation when he addresses Isabel. You know what? That's right, Isabel. You don't have to come with me. It's not myself I'm worried about, it's you. I'll just do this myself if it gets you into more trouble with your superiors. At least I can make up an excuse why I need to be there. Don't be ridiculous. You're not walking in there without me. Besides, I think it's a little too late to back out now. Have you seen the news this morning? I haven't actually. Mama called and I was busy. The change in the air around her, while small, cannot have gone unnoticed, and it takes every willpower not to ask. Probably the only thing reigning in my curiosity is the fact that Ash himself hasn't brought it up either. No problem, it should be in the afternoon news as well. Another victim by the asylum butcher. Man burnt after room catches fire. Burned alive this time. Oh my gosh, what a way to go. Oddly, no fire has spread and whatever damage has been contained within the place the body was found. The room itself, however, has been completely vandalized. Help me. Help me. Help me. Another murderer, the authorities claimed. Isabel and I knew better. None of us shifts even after the report ends, but the room has suddenly felt stifling. Ashton's eyes have gone hooded with what appears to be restrained anger, and the remote in his hand creaks mildly under his grip. The stone is back in my stomach. A tiny little thing gripping in my insides, growing with every passing second as the dread sinks in. In the thick of it, Isabel's voice is one that breaks the hush, a small weak thing on its own that withers unevenly between words, but every syllable heavy with meaning. But it's because of that thing, isn't it? I did this somehow. When it fades, all that's left in the air is her doubt and fear, while all we could do is to cope. Yeah, we can still fix this, don't you worry about that. Let's see. Over here, okay. Yeah, we can still fix this. There is still stuff we can do to prevent this sort of apocalypse from happening. There, then it goes to there. Was there a choice of a church? Nothing was. Okay. So thank you very much for watching, guys. We're going to select, but we can still fix this in the next time of The Letter. I hope you all have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves.